This video is an introduction to your Chapter 1 project where you're going to be working on data analysis and writing of statistics. Now, to complete this project from start to finish, the first thing we're going to need to know is some knowledge about Google Forms. And then we're going to analyze within some Google Sheets. After that, I'm going to show you a new feature in Google called Data Studios. It's where you can do some reporting based on your data, and it does a lot of the reporting for you. We're going to spend a little bit of time digging into that more, and I'm going to teach you that tool. Once we're done in Data Studios, you will have a final product, which would be a one-page report about the question you are curious about for Chapter 1 of your other classmates. And you're going to look at that one-page report from Data Studios and then write about the statistics and what you found in relation to shape, center, and spread. So let's talk about the first step, which involves the Google Forms. You're going to want to go into Schoology and find the Chapter 1 project folder. In there, find the appropriate hour collection data link. If you're first hour data collection, this is yours, or find third hour, sixth hour, eighth hour. Click on this appropriate Google link. It's going to keep you within Schoology, but we want to get outside of Schoology and actually bring this form into the Google Forms itself. So either just double click on the link here or hit the Export Out button. That's then going to free us out of Schoology and give you into this form. Now, everyone in the particular class, and this is first hour's class, has edit rights to this form. So please be very thoughtful and only change and take charge of one question. You're going to want to go and edit the form, so click on the pencil in the upper right-hand corner. Now, there are 3 fields on this form I do not want you to touch. The first question is, what is your gender? The second is, what is your grade? And the third one asks you, in what zip code do you live? So please do not touch those first 3 fields. If you scroll down on this form, you're going to see a lot of other questions. This is what last year's form looked like. You're going to see a question that each student wanted to ask the other students. And what we're trying to do, folks, is to create one cumulative survey in a Google form versus having 30 different surveys out there with questions. So we're collaborating together so every student takes one survey versus 30 surveys. Here's an example from Megan from last year. The question she wanted to know was this: how many times do you eat dinner with your family per week? Now, when you create this question, you get to choose your own question type. Most people choose the short answer text and just have each student type it in. If you want to take a little more control, you can actually do this box type where you can click on the button. You could do a checkbox. You could have different drop-down choices. Now, for Megan's choice, how many days do you eat with your family per week? The only thing I would say on here, there could probably be another option of 0. What if you never do? So if you do give them a standard list of options to choose from, make sure every possible option you think someone could choose would be there. Otherwise, just choose the short answer text. Now, this is probably the trickiest part to get started with because you have to come up with a question that you are curious about in relation to your peer students in your classroom that will give you a quantitative answer. For example, what is not quantitative? What you could not ask them is something like this: what color is your hair? Check either brown, blonde, etc. That is a qualitative word. It's called categorical. We need to be able to get numerical responses from students so we can compute averages. Let me show you another one. This question from Dylan: how many times do you study on average per day? And he wants it in minutes. You need to be very specific and ask how you want the answer to come back. Minutes, hours. If you don't tell people, you're going to get a variety of answers and you're going to have bad data. So be very specific on this. Now, another thing maybe Dylan could have added would be on an average school day. Clearly in the summer you probably don't study, but you never know. There could be somebody taking that into account. Or do you want to say not on the weekends, or do you want to include the weekends? Just be specific so you know that they are typing and everyone is giving you the same reasonable answers. So your first goal is to come in to school with your idea of what your question is going to be. You're going to go into this form once you hit the edit mode, and you're going to type in your specific question. Please put your name first to start it off with, because we ultimately need to collect this data, and I want you to remember which question was yours, and I want to be able to see what question is yours in case I have any questions for you on that. Now, once all the questions are in there, we will take the survey as a class and gather the responses. If you've never worked with Google Forms before, this is where we were in the questions. When you can go back into the form and click on the responses. This is our data from last year. You're going to notice it says 28 students responded. You can go down and scroll through and see what the response was to your question. It's not bad information, but it's not a lot of information. Because what we're going to do for this project is dive deeper into your one question. We're going to analyze your question by gender. We're going to analyze it by grade, and we're going to analyze it by zip code. So let me show you how can we actually analyze the data in more detail, because all we're getting from the form is this high-level information. What you're going to want to do is go into the form and click right here. This is an Export to Google Sheets button. So please click on Export to Google Sheets. When you do, it's going to bring you to this particular form. Now, before you do anything to this form, what you're going to want to do is make your own individual copy. To do that, just go over to File and go down to Make a Copy. Now, we are going to have to find this file later, so I recommend using a nice naming convention. I would use this. I would put FST Chapter 1 Project Data, then put a dash and put your full name on there so you'll know where it is. Decide where you want to put it. I have a Chapter 1 folder for FST in my Google Drive. That's where I want to save it. Hit OK, and please save that document. Now, make sure you're working in your own document. So notice the title of mine is up here. It says the one with Miss Landon. Get out of the old one. That original one is for every student to have to access. We do not want to modify that data. We want to keep that real and complete. This file is my file, though, and I can change it. So let's work on cleaning up the data file. Now, what I want to do is make sure I do keep the gender, the grade, and the zip code because I need that data. But let's say that I have my data in column I. I'm Austin. This is my question. Those are my responses. I want to delete all of these columns and all of these others. So there's two ways you could go about doing that. If you go here, highlight a column E to H, because again, I want to keep I. You can either go to the drop-down Edit, and I will tell you it doesn't work to necessarily delete these. It might, you can try it. I had some issues, so instead of deleting, what I had to choose to do was to actually hide them. So if you can delete, again, just highlight these three columns, go to Edit and click or highlight the delete columns E through H. If that doesn't work for you, let's hide them. Another way you can do it is once you've highlighted all the columns, just go to the drop down arrow, and on here you could delete columns E through H, and it will clear out those columns for us. And you can do the same thing. You're going to just highlight those columns, and on the little box here, there's a drop down box on any one of the columns. Click that. Again, if deleting worked, we could have just did delete column E through H. If it doesn't, you can actually hide the column. So select hide, and they will disappear. So after doing that, there's the column I want if I'm Austin, but I still have a lot more other questions here from other students. So do the same thing. Highlight the next column all the way over to the right. Keep scrolling to the right. There's a lot of other questions over here. Get rid of all of that data and hit the delete on that. You're going to notice my column I is there and it jumps from D to I. They're still in there, but we just can't see them. Now there's going to be lots of other columns and questions to your right, so highlight the next one to yours and scroll all the way over to the right. Keep going until you get rid of every single one and do the same thing. Either you can do the drop down and delete it if it allows you. If it doesn't allow you, then just do hide the columns. So now we're left with a really nice, smaller looking file. This is very specific to my question, except you want to look at the data. Look at your question. Did any students give you data that is typed in odd or looks strange? In this case, I do have two issues. I had people actually put the label hours. 14 hours in a Google Sheet is not a number. It's a text field because the word is there for hours. So I need to manually go in here and just type 14. And into here, just type 7. So you're going to notice I did that and it looks good. But scroll all the way down. Look at all of your data. Does anything look weird or strange? If so, this is the time to try to figure out who that student was and ask a clarifying question. Should you change the data? Now, on the worksheet that I gave you, I do want you to write down some totals right now. So what you're going to do is let's practice sorting within Google Sheets. All you have to do to sort, it's very easy. I want to sort by gender first because I want to get some totals by gender. So highlight column B, which is gender, and go to the little arrow. And what you do is you select sort sheet A to Z. That'll sort it alphabetically so females will show up and then the males. So click that and we'll get the file here to be sorted for us by female. Now on your sheet I'm going to ask you give me the total of the female column, the average, the min, the max, and the count. So what you want to do is go to your particular data field and highlight all the way down for just the females. Go to this lower right hand corner where it says sum and click on that sum button. It's going to give you all of this data. Record this on your worksheet, please. So the total of all the females for this question was, how many hours of physical activity do you do a week? Of all the ladies in class, it would be 90 hours. Here's the average, here's the min, the max, and the count means there were 11 ladies that were asked. After that, go ahead for the males, scroll down to the numerical field for that, highlight all the males, click again on the sum and record your various totals and sums for that, please. Now let's continue on and let's get our sums by grade. So we need to go to the grade column. If you highlight that, click the arrow, you can hit the sort sheet. And it's going to sort our data for us by grade, which is great. All of my 10th graders here, then my 11th graders and so forth. Let's get all of those statistics about them too. So let's start with just the 10th graders. If you highlight the quantitative field, it's going to, and then click on the sum here. The total hours of 10th graders is 34. Here's my average, my min, my max, and there were a total of 4 people who responded to that one. Do that for all of the grades that show up for your survey question and record the results. Let's continue on and do that for zip code. So my zip code is in column D. Go ahead and sort A to Z, or really Z to A. It doesn't matter. A to Z just goes alphabetical for that one. Now, to get the totals, like in the min and the max for each unique zip code, you're going to notice this. For this particular one, there's only one zip code at 55318. And when I click on this box, it doesn't show me any totals or sums down here. It won't because the sum is 5, the average is 5, the min and the max are all 5. It is just that one piece of data. It's not going to start until this zip code for me at 55331. When I highlight those 2 boxes, then I can click down here and get all of the details that I need. So this is the end of us going through how to use Google Forms and Google Sheets. Let's move on to introducing Google Data Studio and how it works for doing our official reporting and making all of this data make sense in tables and graphs. Now, the one thing I highly recommend we do before we go into Data Studio is let's look at the column titles and make them more concise and clear to us. So please, into your 4 columns right here, go into letter B if you still have the timestamp there. Go into here and just call this gender. Retitle C as grade. Let's do D as zip code. And for I, or whatever column your data was it in hours? Was it weeks? Was it minutes? Whatever this was, please type that word. For this particular data, it was in hours. So actually type the word hours. Again, if yours was in how many Twinkies you ate, I put number of Twinkies. If it was how many siblings do you have, number of siblings. But make this as short and concise as you can, because that's going to help us have a better looking report in our Data Studio. Now, Data Studio, you actually have to go outside of your drive to get it. So here's what you need to type in is datastudio.google.com is the web address. So please type in this web address, and when you do, you're going to get the screen that you see in front of you. So do that first, and I'm going to show you how we go about navigating through this. First thing I want to do is actually start a new report, because our main goal is we're going to make a 1-page report of all the statistics about our particular question by gender, age, and zip code. So if we click on this plus sign, now because we are new to Google Data Studio, it's going to make us do this welcome thing. Do just go ahead and please say get started and click on that. It's then going to want you to scroll down and just acknowledge this. Just do the click box and say you accept the responsibility of using this application. It's It's going to ask you if you want to sign up for any emails. I personally didn't, so I just said no to all 4 of these. You probably don't want to say yes, but you can if you'd like, and just click done. And it brings us back to our new page, but it has connected us to Google Studio data here. Now, to get back started, let's do what we want to do. Let's create a new report. So I'm going to click on that plus sign one more time. And it's going to bring me here to this untitled report. This blank page right here is the sheet where I will ultimately build my graphs and my nice cool tables. I can title a report if I want to, I just haven't yet. What we need to do is we need to link this one-page report to some data to that Google Sheets. So please click on Edit, and that's going to say, what data do you want? Well, remember we named our data file FST Chapter 1 Project. I don't see that word here and you won't. So you're going to want to click here, create a new data source. Now our data source is in Google Sheets, so you're going to actually have to scroll down because it doesn't show up first. So scroll down until you find Google Sheets and please select that. It then wants to get access to your Google Sheets account. So what you're going to want to do is just authorize that and say, yep, it's okay for you to go into my Google Sheets. And again, it's going to verify, is this who you are? So look at your Google account. This is my Google account within my Google Drive, and I said allow access to that, and you can move forward. Perfect. Then it's going to bring you to this screen. And for me, I have a lot of Google Sheets in my Drive, and it listed them all by newest document first. You're going to notice there it is, FST Chapter 1 Project Data, Mrs. Landon. Click on yours. And this was called Form Responses 1. Now, it's going to say use the first row as a header, which I do want that, because remember the first row said gender, your grade, your zip code. So keep that clicked. But especially if you had to hide the cells in there, I don't need the cells of the other students' questions. So I'm going to actually unclick this. Do not include the hidden filtered cells. Get rid of those so you don't want to bring them in. When you're done with that, all you need to do is hit connect. And it's going to bring in our table of data right here. You're going to notice I have 5 fields. Now the timestamp field, I probably didn't need to keep, so if you don't have it, that's totally fine. You're going to notice though it is recognizing it as a date field, which is correct. The gender field is a text field because it's a word. The grade really is a text field too, because remember we typed it like 11th and 10th, so it's not a numerical grade. I don't want your average grade. It's more of kind of a word answer to me. Now the zip code on here, be careful. It thinks it's a number, but it doesn't make sense to take the average calculation of all the zip codes. It's not a logical answer. So really for me in this case, a zip code is categorical. So I need you to click on here, go to the drop down where it says number for zip code, and we're going to change that to a text field. So if you change that to a text field, it's going to be exactly what we need. And for mine, this was my question again. I was Austin, and it said it was a number field. It asked how many hours. That is numerical, so that was great. And we don't need to change that last field. Aggregation, it says, do you want to tally it up? I don't want them to do that. We'll work on that later. And then when you're done there, just click Add to Report. When you do that, here's what it's going to give us. We now kind of see this nice grid paper. This is a one-page kind of a poster we're going to make where we can start putting all our goodies on here. So this is officially the end of this first part of the report for day 1 and day 2. The next video I'm going to cover how do we actually use this data studio and put tables and graphs and make it a nice report. So let me know if you have any questions up until this point. If you, again, want to put a title report on here, you could, if it helps you find it later. It might be handy to put, FST Chapter 1 Project, and then it will actually save into your Data Studio drive, not your Google Drive. So if you are looking for this, we can find the report back in the Data Studio for Google.